My name is Ethan Patterson, and today I'll be talking about targeted incentives. Arkansas is currently a poor state, ranking 17th in poverty, or I'm sorry, 7th highest in poverty rate with 17.2% in poverty. Arkansas is inefficient with utilizing their tax money and incentives, and one incentive is the job creation incentive. So these give tax credits, rebates, and infrastructure loans to promote job creation. One thing that Arkansas has done is the Arkansas Quick Action Closing Fund. This fund creates money that can be used as incentives towards businesses looking to move into Arkansas. Just to look at that, you look at targeted incentives, and you can go back, and there's examples in Arkansas such as Bad Boy Mowers where they were given a sum of money, and later to find out that they were actually not even interested in the money. They were already looking to move into Batesville, Arkansas, where they were at. For the policy review, it's kind of pretty simple. A lot of people have actually looked into it. It's been highly debated. A lot of people believe that success can come out from government officials. To quote, targeted incentives encourage existing to expand operations, to recruit new firms, locations, and promote entrepreneurial activity. And that was quoted from Bundrick and Snyder from their 2017 report. They go on to say how this was wrong, and that the proponents believe that this will bring the economic activity and later will be used as a multiplier, or a certain amount of money will grow and you'll multiply that by the economic activity and growth that's increased due to this incentive. And then Peters and Fishers in 2004, they state that incentives are marginal at best. And they also state that 35 to 45% of every dollar are given to other governments. So this could be such as federal taxes, income taxes, and different things such as that, or property tax. And so what happens is these incentives also create a similar ability on your income tax, and so, or property tax. So your property tax will actually come across very similar, if not equal, across the state. And then they also stated that incentives are too small to matter. So unless you have a major incentives, and later we'll look onto some of the areas, and they'll be even getting into the millions of dollars, but these incentives aren't enough to matter. Matthew Freeman in 2013 analyzed the Texas economic zones and said it had positive effects on local employment, but stated that most of the jobs were low paying and in certain industrial industries. So this means that targeted incentives, or incentives in general, are very limited in where they can actually be applied and where the application will actually benefit the individuals and the cities around it. One thing I did was I decided to create 3 questions you have to ask yourself on what is needed for incentives to be efficient. Efficiency is our key. Unless we're efficient, then we won't be successful. And efficiency is a great way to view this and the goal that we're reaching. Question number 1 was, do incentives create growth where not available without the incentive? So this is saying, if there wasn't the incentive there, where would that city be? And without that incentive, how is it hurting that location? Next question is, if the growths do create, or the incentives create growth where otherwise wouldn't be, is the growth greater than similar areas or cities? Finally, is the benefits greater than the cost of the incentives? What I looked at was a lot of numbers and trying to dig through it, but I found that the Arkansas Economic Development Commission posted that they had 26,684 jobs created with an average wage of $5.20. This came out to be about, it came out to have an additional annual income of $1.138 billion. So we're talking about billion dollars at this point. And if you go on later in my paper, what it discusses is the surrounding areas actually had a higher mean household income and a median household income, as well as unemployment rates. They were just outperforming these QACF locations. Therefore, it kind of neglects, just from there alone, the fact that the Quick Action Closing Fund is inefficient. And so one way you can look at that one thing we need to discuss is the fact that the incentives, they aren't necessarily, or the businesses won't actually necessarily go to those locations without the incentives. Bad Boy Mowers moved to Batesville, Arkansas. Even without the incentive, they were still planning on doing that. And then for question 2, the growth, you can look at that as the similar areas. I compared the city of Conway to the city of Rogers. Conway has a population of 65,000 and Rogers is just shy of 65,000. Rogers' median income was nearly $10,000 more, and they had a 2.6% unemployment rate compared to Conway's 3.3%. I have discussed this. I will go on further details and have examples provided in the tables during my on my paper. But if you go on to continue to ask yourself, are the benefits greater than the cost incentivized of the incentives? The answer to that is no. The cost you do gain, while it is $1.1 billion, it's neglected by the fact that the surrounding areas are just as efficient in their spending without that amount of money. What I would suggest, though, for a policy to be created would actually not get rid of the Arkansas Quick Action closing fund, but adjust it. So currently it's aimed towards manufacturers and industrial places or distribution centers. I say that you should actually switch it to parts of the economy such as information technology, transportation, bioengineering, and things like that. This would create more advanced jobs at a higher wage, thus improving the quality of work for Arkansans, increasing the median and mean income, while also promoting the growth of education and the ability to get scholarships and such as that. Well, the scholarships would actually come from after the fact. Once businesses are moving to Arkansas and they realize the importance and the ability to have an efficient system in Arkansas, they'll actually create scholarships to promote individuals to come into that field of study. A lot of people might reject this. One thing would be like the manufacturers who are currently receiving those incentives. To kind of counter that, what you'd be able to do is you could actually talk about a couple different things. One thing would be the multiplier effect. So people talk about the multiplier effect for the local government, for the quick action closing fund right now, but to adjust it to utilize it for information technology, stuff that can actually be grown and then utilized in rural areas, not just industrial or large populated areas, metropolitan areas such as Little Rock. You could use those places, and that way it'll actually help them, and then they can promote that growth around the surrounding areas. And you also have the higher paying jobs, widespread growth, which will be after a few years, and that way you can adjust it. And then you also have an actual efficient return on investment that can actually lead to tax cuts. These tax cuts will lower the cost for each individual and promote that growth in the spending, further multiplying the multiplier on these groups. Thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Ethan Patterson. Have a great day.